Hey there guys, and welcome back to Dino Reacts. We finally made it, the 10th entry in the Friday the 13th series, Jason X. So this is kind of where the series goes off the rails, it goes batshit crazy. Without further ado guys, let's look at it, let's start reviewing Jason X. Guys, Jason X was released in 2001, so almost a decade after the last entry in the series. So what I found kind of confusing at the start of this movie is it doesn't really take into account what happened in Jason Goes to Hell. The movie itself, it was actually made during the time they were kind of coming up for an idea for Freddy vs. Jason. So they pretty much kind of wanted to hold on to the rights of the franchise, but also they wanted to release a movie just to kind of keep Jason popular, to keep him fresh in people's minds for when Freddy and Jason finally came out. So we start the movie in the near future at that time of 2010. So Jason Voorhees, he's being kept in kind of like a research facility around Camp Crystal Lake. So the people who are keeping him there, kind of the government more than anything else, they are kind of keeping him there because they do not know what to do with him. Our main character, our main final girl, Rowan, she does explain at the start of the movie that they've pretty much done everything they could to kill Jason. So he is being kept at this facility, but the government at the time, they do kind of want to test on Jason. So they pretty much want to make him, a weapon and kind of find out why he can't die. They do want to weaponize him, and Rowan, the final girl, is there at the start of the movie. She's telling him, this is the worst decision you can make. And she does prove them right. So Jason, he does escape, he kills a bunch of guards, and he chases Rowan down into the basement of the facility. So once she's down there, she does actually get away from Jason. She locks him into a kind of like a cryo chamber, a freeze chamber, and freezes him inside. Unfortunately for her, Jason does stab his way through it. He doesn't get out, but he does release the kind of freezing material, and she ends up freezing down in the basement with him. So we do flash forward to the year 2455, and we see a bunch of university students with their professor are exploring Earth. So at this point, Earth is kind of like a desolate planet. It's gone away to nothing and no one lives there anymore. They do kind of, go through the ruins of the place, and they find Jason Voorhees and Rowan down in the basement of the facility. So they bring both bodies on board and decide they're going to bring Rowan back to life. But they decide not to bring Jason back because he is pretty much decomposed. You must remember, he was pretty much just a zombie when he got frozen in the first place. Saying that though, the professor on board, he's kind of the villain of the story. He's a greedy guy that wants to make money out of Jason Voorhees. And when he finds out how valuable Jason is, he decides to bring him back to life also. Rowan does warn them not to bring him back to life, which the professor just pretty much laughs off. But as he sees, once Jason comes back to life, he pretty much just starts killing everyone and anyone in his way. That is one of the things I absolutely loved about this movie. The kills in this one are quite great. We got a lot of kills in this movie, and they pretty much come very quick and very fast. So yes, there is a lot of dialogue, and smaller scenes between the kills, but I suppose every 5 to 6 minutes we generally see kill in this movie, and I was all in for that. The standout kill in this movie, it's not my favourite, it's my second favourite, but it is the character of Adrian, who's kind of working in the lab on the ship they're on. She is the one who's kind of in charge of looking after Jason. She's working down the lab, and she's just kind of doing tests on his body to see what the hell he actually is. Unfortunately for Adrian, when Jason does rise back up, he grabs her from behind, he pushes her head into this kind of liquid freeze material and essentially just freezes her face to death. Now he grabs her head and he smashes into the counter in one of the most creative kills I've seen in the whole series. And the creative kills do not stop there. One guy, he gets his back broken by Jason pretty much just bending him over his knee. Another guy gets split in half. We have a decapitation. Another great kill is one of the soldiers on the ship. He gets thrown over a balcony, and for some reason he just lands on this random screw that's coming out of the ground. But it's a great kill. He impales himself onto it and then slowly swivels down to the end of the screw. I love the kills in this movie. They kept coming one after the other, and again, they were very creative. Even the kills, CGI kills in this movie, they may not look the best, but they came out of nowhere. They were quite fun to watch, so I gotta say I really enjoyed that about it. I also really like the humour in this movie. A lot of people might not agree with me, but I did think it was quite quirky, fun humour. The whole movie itself is quite camp, it's quite cheesy. You know, at the end of the day, Jason is in space. Generally, when a film franchise gets to that point, there's not much left in the tank. You know, they are jumping the shark. Another movie series that did that was The Leprechaun, and at the end of the day, he was pretty much using a lightsaber in space in his movie. So there's not a lot there, but I do like when a movie can embrace the silliness of what they're doing, and this movie definitely does that. I will say this is 100% a guilty pleasure movie. Is it the best Friday movie overall? No, but they know that when they're making the movie. You can see that they know they're kind of just having a blast, they're having some campy fun, and they jump all in on it. As well as that, unlike the last film, which yes, they knew they were doing something different, with this film they're giving you Jason Voorhees. They're pretty much giving you everything you want out of Jason. The characters, as I said, they are fun. They're not very memorable. The character of Janessa, I thought, had some great lines throughout. She was a fun character. Would she be one of my favourites in the whole series? No.
I don't think he's out there.
Why don't you just stick your head out and have a peek?
This is also the first movie I gotta say that I did like Kane Hodder in since the 7th installment. So I did really enjoy him in it. But as I've said in other reviews, I don't get the Kane Hodder hype. Saying all that though, he is great in this one. This is probably one of my favourite Jasons in all of the movies, and it's definitely because of Kane Hodder. One reason in particular that I like Jason in this movie is actually Uber Jason. So a great thing about this movie is there is a lot of twists and turns. So at times, you know, you think the ship and everyone on it are going to be saved, and there's always kind of something happens that stops that from going ahead. At one point, you know, they are a small ship and they're kind of going to like a colony ship, a huge massive ship, which Jason, you know, through killing somebody ends up getting that whole ship blown up, the whole colony. I'm not sure how much people he killed on that, but let's just say he killed a lot. During kind of the last act of the movie, I suppose, they do actually take Jason down. So we do have a lot of characters left, you know, 4 or 5, I think maybe 6 characters, which I thought was fun because you don't see that in a lot of Friday movies. And they do pretty much just blow Jason's head off. So they blow his head to smithereens. And that is where Uber Jason really comes into play. So he gets kind of brought back to life from this machine. He has a really cool new look. He has a chrome-like hockey mask. He has red eyes underneath. And again, that's kind of where Kane Hodder thrives in this role. You can see the eyes underneath. This Jason, he looks like he's full of rage compared to the regular, you know, hockey mask type Jason. He looks scarier, he looks angrier, and he looks a lot more threatening. And that's what you want. If you're going to up the factor and bring Jason, you know, in as this kind of Uber-like Jason, you want him as powerful as ever. And he definitely is. The amount of times these characters kill Jason, you know, or think that they've killed him off in this movie is bonkers. He just keeps coming back over and over again, and it leads to one of my favourite scenes in the film itself and the overall series. So at one point they want to distract Jason Voorhees. So what they do is they create kind of a Camp Crystal Lake hologram version. So it's a game some of the characters in the movie play, and they put Jason inside it. So for a while, you know, he is quite confused. There's a cabin there, there's a lake, and of course there are 2 teen counselors there as well. So the 2 teen counselors, you know, they want to drink, they want to smoke, they want to have sex, and they're giggling at Jason. So there's a really great scene where we're kind of cutting back and forth between this sequence and our character surviving. Then when we cut back to the camp again, we see Jason with both counselors in sleeping bags, pretty much just smacking them off each other until they die. Now that was a great callback to part 7, which, you know, again, that part 7 kill is one of the best in the series. So I like that they kind of just paid homage to it. It's probably my favourite kill in this film. Most people like the freezed head sequence, but I just thought this was everything that Jason X was. Again, you know, it was quite camp, it was quite silly, and it was just popcorn fun. I did also think the end sequence of this whole thing was quite cool. You know, Jason, again, they're constantly pushing him back and he's constantly coming back stronger and stronger. At one point, you know, they knock him out of space and he gets back onto the ship. He tears a huge hole in the ship and gets back on. At the end of the film, guys, our remaining survivors, they do escape off of the ship, so they're pretty much setting the entire thing to blow up. A few of them, they escape on like an escape pod type ship, and the sergeant character stays on there, have to have one pretty much final face off with Jason Voorhees. Now the ship, it does blow up, and in a great sequence we see Jason coming back one more time to the escape pod, but the sergeant pretty much pulls him back all the way down to Earth 2, where both of them kind of burn up. Now obviously this Jason, he's an Uber Jason, so we don't expect him to burn up the same way the sergeant does, and he does conveniently land in a lake. We cut to two teenage characters, overlooking a shooting star, landing in the lake and wanting to go over and check it out. I thought it was a great ending to the film. It also set up a cool, neat story of maybe visiting Earth 2. Do I think we'll ever do that? No. But I did read the novels when I was younger and they were quite fun books, It was a new setting, similar enough to Earth 1, but in a brand new lake. Now, as you see guys, I do have a lot of positives for this movie, but I do still have negatives. So the acting overall is not great in this movie. It is very poor. The actors themselves, they do look like they're having fun, but none of their characters are particularly memorable. I like the final girl, Rowan. She's probably the best character in this because she's quite a strong final girl. Normally, final girls in horror movies, they are a little bit more like damsels in distress and they fight back towards the end of the movie. With Rowan, pretty much from the first scene of this movie, she's a fighter and she carries that throughout the whole film. Pairing the acting with how this looks and just the set design on this movie. Yes, we are in space, yes, we are in a ship, but this whole movie, for me anyway, felt like a sci-fi TV movie. If I saw this on the Sci-Fi Channel, it would fit right in there. At times I kind of can't believe this was released in cinemas. It does look quite poor, it hasn't aged well at all, and a lot of technology that they're actually using on this ship are very 2000s type technology. So they didn't do much to make this look quite futuristic. We know from movies that were released in 2000 and 2001 that they could easily do that. You TV shows like Battlestar Galactica that looked so much more advanced than this movie that was released in theaters. The whole movie itself, it just felt very cheap. You could see it straight away. Even as I said, when Jason punches his way through the ship, it just looks like a bunch of plastic. It doesn't look like this real, big ship. The CGI shots are very poor as well. I wasn't a fan of them. Every time I cut the CGI shots, I just wanted them to end because they were quite embarrassing. But overall guys, this movie I would 100% describe as a guilty pleasure. This is probably the definition of what a guilty pleasure should be. I had an absolute blast with this movie. It's fun, it's campy, it's mad. The kills are great in this one, and we get one of the best Jasons, in my opinion, we've ever got. This was Kane Hodder's last portrayal of Jason, and I think it was the best one for him to go out on. With the last two movies that he did, I just didn't see what everyone else saw, but I did think he was quite great in this one. So guys, would I recommend this movie? Absolutely. Check it out. You don't really need to have seen any of the other Jasons to see it. If you just want to try on a fun popcorn movie, this is definitely the one to watch. Don't take it seriously. Don't expect an amazing Oscar-worthy movie, and you will have a blast. Unfortunately, the acting isn't great, the set design and the CGI are very poor, but we're kind of here for Jason at the end of the day, and he does exactly what's on the tin. Next up guys, I'll be reviewing Freddy vs. Jason, the big crossover event that took almost 15 years to be made. I've always loved that movie, but again, I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm quite excited to jump into that one. If you like this video guys, give a comment below just letting me know what you liked about this movie. If you've hated Jason X and you just want to explain why it's such a bad movie, comment below and let me know why. Don't forget guys, subscribe to the channel just so you don't miss another video in this Friday series, and until next time guys, Heidi ho.